Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to discuss the process of cleaning up your families utilizing various tools from the BIM Manager Suite, and I'm going to point out and highlight a couple of other tools from a couple of our other products that could be beneficial and used within this process. Before we begin, I do want to encourage everyone to ask questions using the questions panel that you should have as part of this presentation. I will be monitoring that and will answer any questions that I see in line during the presentation as it makes sense. And we'll make sure to take time and recap and answer any remaining questions or additional questions at the end. If you are watching the recording on our YouTube channel, please use the comment section below. We monitor those as well, and we'll make sure to answer those questions in a timely fashion. That said, let's just jump right into it. As many of you all know, family management is a tough job. Just to get content in our projects to function properly, we tend to spend hours upon hours, day after day, week after week, months at a time, or out of any given period, getting this content to function, to get it to work correctly in the projects. And once we get it the way we want, the way it needs to be, right? The schedules are working, we're not hearing anything about it, people are quote unquote happy. That's when things really start to happen. And in a typical project, new content edits are made, new families are found and downloaded and used in a project, and things stop working, right? Or things don't work the way you expect. And we start to hear about it. We get an email, we get a chat message, the schedules are broken, the families are broken, this isn't working, that isn't working, so on and so forth. And now we got to spend all this time figuring out what the problem even is and how do we address it. It's also possible that design standards need to change. And in those standards changes, that comes down the pipeline and ends up modifying content that we had working. Now we got to figure out a way to change parameters or rename things, update all of our families. And if there's parameters we're changing that are used in formulas, we got to find a way to make sure that that still works. And there's a lot of repercussions to making changes such as that. All of it takes a lot of time. Today's focus is using BIM Manager Suite and some other tools to help you, save you some time on identifying the issues and making the changes to the issue or to the content and or parameters, and then how to get that stuff back into your projects and make sure things work accordingly. Now, all of that said, our learning objectives are going to be like this. I'm going to point out a couple of tools that could help you discover potential issues. It may not be the issue, and it may be something completely different that you uncover here. But these are some tools that could help you figure that out. Then we're going to go ahead and talk about how we can modify and make changes to our shared parameter file or make additions, and how we can potentially merge parameter files. We're going to go ahead and take those changes to the parameter file and apply them to the families, whether it's just a single family for testing or just because that's all that's needed, or a bucket full of families, or a batch full, or your entire library if you choose, depending on what the change is. Then we're going to take those changes and we're going to load them back into a project, and I'm going to show you how to update your schedules and make sure that some of the changes that we have made, if they were to affect the schedule, how you can fix that. And then there's a handful of other tools I'm just going to mention that could be useful in some additional cleanup and repair options if it gets to that point. And that's actually where I'm going to start. All of these tools that you see on your screen now are tools that could help you either identify a problem or fix an issue or make changes to projects and or families. For identifying issues, hopefully you are also being notified of the issue, whether it's just my schedules are broken, my families are broken, that thing isn't working, or we need to change something. In the event that that's not happening, these are some of those tools. So Family Checker and Family Standards, similar tools in different products. Family Checkers in BIM Manager Suite, Family Standards is in the CTC Nexus Suite. Model Dashboard is another one from the BIM Project Suite that could be used. There is also the Model Snapshot Exporter, which is from Data Suite, or Model Compare, which is from Project Suite. They are very similar in how they capture information, just the reporting styles are a little different, that's all. Then we have Project Activity Logger, which is found in two products, BIM Data Suite or in the CTC Nexus Suite. And that is just a basic health checker and user and model activity utility. And I'm going to point out things inside of Model Dashboard because that's in my project. It's super easy to modify. It's part of Project Suite, which a lot of you guys already have. I feel like we should highlight that one real quick. On the repair, edit, make change side of things, we have Shared Parameter Manager, Family Processor, and Schedule Parameter Resolver, all from the BIM Manager Suite. But in addition to those, you potentially could use Project Cleaner and Type Swapper as part of your project cleanup process post the loading of new content. Loading new content, if it's a bunch of detail items, might turn into duplicate families. We can use Type Swapper to clean some of that up, or materials for that matter. Project Cleaner, you just may want to use an enhanced purge effort to get rid of some of the stuff that is no longer required. Parameter Jammer is a tool from the Project Suite that could help repair some schedules in a pinch. Right? If you need it now and you don't have the time for that project to go through what I'm about to show you today, Parameter Jammer can help get those schedules working and get the content scheduling as it needs to be. So that would be like your fix before the real fix kind of thing. And then Family Loader is one of the final tools that you would use post making changes, get the content into your projects, comes from the BIM Batch Suite. Alrighty. I'm just going to jump right into it now. I don't do well with PowerPoints, so here we go. All right. For identifying issues, here's a model dashboard right here on the BIM Project Suite. And what this tool is it's just a title block that is reporting data found in your model. And this data gets reported upon opening the file that day, okay? And it's customizable. There's a number of different metrics that are available that aren't necessarily visible at the moment, and I've made a slight change to mine based off what comes out of the box. But if you go to the type properties of your title block, under the data grouping here is a list of everything that is being recorded and could be displayed in one of the dials here within the title block itself. One of the things that I like about this is that it's right there, it's in your face, you see it immediately. So if you've noticed you're having issues with schedules, or you hear issues about schedules, or you hear about issues with something else completely unrelated, you open the project, you may start to notice things that could be content-related issues. Project parameters. My dial is busted. That means it's way past my maximum threshold that I've defined in my projects. And that's just telling me that if the project parameter list is too high, then maybe we're doing a patchwork fix. We're making little band-aid fixes by adding project parameters just so we have something that we can type in and schedule. But we're not actually getting that into the family itself. So project B or the next project 2 weeks down the road is going to have the same problem, right? And really that just means content is being made, modified, downloaded, whatever the case may be. But it's not coming from the BIM team, I'll say. You could also find out that maybe the materials are bad, or there's a number of other different metrics in here that could be identifiers for you. Again, you could also use a version of family, run a family check on your content libraries based off a certain set of rules, and maybe based off the grades that you get from that, there's some indicators as well. And that's right here in the Manager Suite Family Checker. What I hope happens is that someone tells you something's not working right. Like maybe the schedules aren't scheduling the way they're supposed to. I can't modify a bunch of stuff in my schedule. It's all blank. Or family I'm trying to use isn't working. Well, where did you get the family? How did you build the schedule? What parameters did you use? Right? Those are a bunch of questions that we would start asking. And by looking at this schedule, clearly there's something wrong. I've got a bunch of stuff showing up, but I got a bunch of stuff not showing up. And in this case, I can see why the schedule's not working. They didn't know which parameter to use because there's duplicates and triplicates of things, right? And that's just because if content is not coming from a standard location, but it's a parameter name that makes sense for the condition, and you're downloading stuff from various locations, you're probably going to run into duplicates, triplicates all the time. And you're never going to know which one to use. Heck, even some cases, Autodesk uses these parameters in their out-of-the-box content. So how do we fix this, right? I can use project parameters and put the right one in, but now I got a fourth parameter potentially in this case. I could use parameter jammer to quickly patchwork this in, make it work. I could try to use schedule parameter resolver now and use what's in my shared parameter file, but that doesn't necessarily fix it either because it could be all different doors. In this case, they're using a different door pack altogether. And maybe that's something we need to incorporate into our process. Maybe it's not as extreme as an example as mine is. And maybe it's just a handful of things. At any rate, we know that we've got a bunch of content that's not using the right parameter that clearly people are wanting to use in their projects. So let's get that fixed. So this is where we begin really getting into it. We start with the parameter. So I'm going to open up Shared Parameter Manager. And in this tool, I can do a number of things with this tool. I can add parameters, I can modify parameters, I can reorganize my parameter file, I can remove stuff that I don't need anymore or that seems redundant. I can export a parameter, create a new parameter file from an export from a project, or I can open an existing one from somewhere else that maybe I found in the families folder of a project or got from a manufacturer with their content pack that we purchased. And we can start merging things together. At least start by comparing things to see if there's any duplicates or anything unique. First off, though, I want to show you about adding stuff. So there's a number of different things that I may need to do in my case, or modifying for that matter, with this particular example. Maybe I just need to rename some stuff, or I've already done this process of merging parameter files together. And here's my frame material and my finish and my panel material. They're all down here. And that's part of my duplicates problem. So I can either modify this and rename it to something that's clear and obvious, like door frame material, for example, and put it up in my materials and finishes group where it belongs, not under super door, and be done. And that's one option. You're going to get a notice that tells you that the GUIDs are changing when you do this, and that's because it has to change. You make any sort of edit to a parameter like this, the GUID will change. And I think out of the box with Revit, you can't even rename it. You have to delete it from the project or from the file and add it again from scratch. You can do that here as well. And that's really all our tool is doing when we give you the opportunity to rename it we're effectively deleting the old entry and putting in a new entry. So that's kind of what's going on when you see this message. And it's okay. You can do it this way if you'd like. The other way is just to simply make the change or add a new one from scratch. So I don't need this one anymore. So I'm going to add a new one. In my materials and finishes group, we'll make it the material that it's supposed to be. And I'm going to call it door panel material. And because I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and add my door threshold material because I'm familiar with my content. I know I have this parameter, and I know if these two are causing duplicates, there's probably a good chance there's another one called threshold material somewhere else. So let's nip it in the bud, deal with it now, right? A couple of different things we can do. Hopefully I spelled that right, I think. And you can just add them right out of the gate. So now I'm going to have regular panel material. I've got door panel material. I'm going to leave panel material alone until I'm done with my process, come back and delete it. If you want to compare two parameter files, just on the right side here, go find it, whether it's exported from a project or saved to a project folder. You can just find it, open it. If there are duplicate parameters found in the file, you'll get a report like this that can be saved. And this is just an indication that there's duplicates found. And because this particular parameter file was exported from a Revit project, it's exporting everything it possibly can, including the duplicates. So, which is nice because now I can see that. I can go to that parameter file, and I know there's duplicates because here they are, and I can see them. I can find out if any of these are in my current parameter file or if they are strictly in this project and only this project because they came from some other family that was used. So what I can do is adjust my filters to show things that are unique. So anything in green is unique to its own parameter file. If I want to go find dimensions, both of these width properties here are unique to this file, which means somewhere along the line, two different families were loaded into a project, both using a version of this actual width. That's one more thing I'm gonna have to go track down now and fix and standardize on that. Or maybe it's just this one project and maybe I don't care. And that's perfectly fine. But at least now you know. And to boot then, if there's anything in here that you need to keep, because you know you've seen this in other projects and other parameter files, you've heard requests for it in the past, we can get this added to our parameter file quite easily. And it will maintain the name and the GUID so that you don't have to worry about it down the road. Things like the sustainability info and lead data, or information about the catalog and catalog codes, or maybe there's some other model properties or project information that was added. If it's here, we can certainly get it added across. So for example, if I wanted to bring over these two catalog coded pieces here, I can grab these two and simply drag and drop them into the group that they need to be a part of. So over here, there's identity data, hold down control, press and drag, let go, and they get added to that list. And because of how my filter is set up, they disappear, which is great. If I switch this now to say, show me duplicates, it'll change the color. They should appear again in both places. If I pop on back over here, they should appear over in both places, highlighted in this yellowish orangish color. That's a good thing. That's thumbs up. Okay. So there's different ways we can go ahead and make changes and merge things together. Now, one other thing that I'm going to point out, because I want to talk about it later on when we're actually doing the edits, is I had a parameter that I modified. I guess I added it over here under dimensions called swing angle. So angle is another one of those properties that could be utilized by numerous other families and manufacturers or organizations that build content. It's going to interfere with my angle parameter and cause additional confusion potentially. So to avoid that, I added a new parameter called swing angle. And that's what I want to go ahead and put into some of the families that I'm about to work with. The kicker here, though, and you'll see this in a moment, angle is used in formulas. So how do we fix that? Normally, that's a pretty tough ask if you don't have an app to assist you with that. But today, because we do have an app to help, it won't be so bad. All right, so that's Shared Parameter Manager. Now we jump into Family Processor. Oops, I got to switch to a family first, which is beautiful. I always get one step ahead of myself when I do this. In Family Processor, the purpose of this tool is to help you take information, parameter data from your parameter file or from another family and push it into a bunch of other families. And really, it can be one family or a bunch of other families. It's up to you how you want to handle that. But it's family level editing that you can do from an app that normally you wouldn't be able to do as quickly and easily, I should say. So we have a bunch of family level processing, like if you want to audit the families when you open them at the beginning of this process. Do you want to change categories or make them turn on calculation points or whatever the case? Set the omni class value or the new classification codes for 26. Mess with your lookup tables if you need to. On the MEP side of things, delete old ones, import the new ones. We can work with materials. I'm focusing on parameters today. So what I'm going to do is start with the addition and specifically the replacement of parameters. Okay. Now, there's a couple of different things you could do with this, and I'll try to point on some of them. So if you are adding a new parameter to a family that didn't, and a version of that didn't already exist, that's just a flat add, right? And then we can make changes or add a formula, whatever we want to do with it. Okay, which is what I've done here. So I know my threshold material, that it lives in the frame family. But I also want that in the assembly, my main door family. All my other threshold parameters are there. I want this to be there too. So I'm going to add it to the door assembly. I get to choose instance versus type. It tells me the type of parameter I'm working with. If I want to give it a default value now, I can. If it needs to include a formula, I can add that too. Since it's a material, that might be a little overkill, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I could if I needed to. We can also just add good old plain family parameters if you need them, right? And this is where being able to extract that from another family file gets really helpful, because maybe for a fact these other families had these parameters in it, and they should be in this one to help control things about this family, and then it's consistent and it's familiar and it acts and functions and looks like your other content. So instead of trying to remember what those are, you can pick from another family file and extract those from it. Super simple, really easy to do, and that way you don't have to know or take screenshots to try to remember what they are. But what I want to do is point out this replace option, right? So we found parameters that were duplicates or triplicates, and I want to get rid of those. So to show you how this works, I'm going to remove all of this and show you what I did. So I first did angle. I made a new parameter called swing angle, and I want to make sure that swing angle is used in lieu of angle, no more angle. So what I'm going to do is add angle to this list. This is what the current parameter is. What are we replacing it with? So I'm going to go find swing angle. And this is all pulling directly from the shared parameter file that I was just editing. Okay, so step one, check. And if you had made changes or someone else is making changes on the fly, you can actually reload this and get your updates kind of on the fly. So you don't have to wait or close and reopen. You can just hit reload. Maybe you're doing it on a second machine. If you're lucky like me, you get a second laptop to work on. At any rate, the next one I want to add or work with here is panel material, which is here. And what am I going to replace it with? Door panel material. And then frame material. Door frame material, right? And you can start going down this list and start making those types of updates and those types of changes so that you don't have to open each one individually, add the parameter, make the swap yourself. Let's let an app do some of that for you, save you a little bit of time. Last but not least is the parameters to change area. Okay, and this is just a great opportunity for you, the BIM team, the BIM management team, to make additional changes to the content outside of simply replacing parameters or adding new ones. Maybe we need to change what's already there. Think of, like an appear in schedules type of parameter. Maybe something's showing up in a schedule because the setting was set incorrectly and it shouldn't be. This narrows down what I'm applying this update to, but maybe I want to force the issue and this is set to 0 equals 0 because for whatever reason it wasn't before, or we're afraid it wasn't before. Maybe there's something else. Maybe we want to push out a new version number to all of our content, or, there's umpteen thousand different reasons we'd want to go ahead and just flat manipulate something. Maybe I want to take fire rating and force that to be an instance property. I can do that. I can do other things, or just convert my other material, my finished properties. There we go. Frame finish. Oops, I'm on the wrong tab. I want to go back to parameter to change and add frame finish. And I want to make this a type property, let's say. And instead of the steel, maybe it should be aluminum. Right? I can do all that right now. And I can go down panel finish and make it a version of a painted wood, whatever the case may be. At this point, I've made changes. I think I'm good with my changes. Now we can start applying that to things. I recommend, oftentimes when we're doing this, we'll have a family open because we can pull data out of it. A lot of the stuff that we were looking at here is parameters found in the current family, right? Which is great. But then if I go to the select and begin process, if that family is still open, I can't batch update it with the app open, but I can test with it open. I can do begin processing. It's going to give me a report real quick on what I'm about to do. We're going to audit the family. We're going to add this parameter. We're going to replace these 3. We're going to update 2 others, or ensure that these other 2 have these updates. And then, I have a type catalog setting in place. I don't want to export type catalogs right now. I'm going to back up. And I'm going to, it's actually down here, uncheck that. So when I go back and hit begin, we're still good. Type catalog creation is out of the question now, which is exactly what I wanted to see. Now I hit go. And it's going to go and make sure that what you did will either work or it won't work, and it'll tell you if it's not working or if it is. And I get a error that this material wasn't found. And that's okay. That just means I can't change it right now because it doesn't exist. And it's likely because it's not metal-ICS-aluminum, probably something else, or aluminum-ICS-brushed or something like that. And that's okay. I just won't make that change. But this is why we do process on the current family, so that I'm not waiting for it to process on 100 families and finding out that I did it wrong. This is like my preview. Now, there is an actual preview option. If you switch to multiple, there is a preview only option, which will process through everything in your selection and give you that same report, which is also not a bad idea, even after you think you got it right. So I am actually going to come back to this and remove that because I know it's not going to work. I didn't mean to do, well, no, that's okay. So now if I do it again, that error is going to be gone. I'll be happy. At this point, I can hit browse and go find my content folder that I want to work with, which just happens to be this one. Select as many or as few families as you want to process during this exercise and add them to the group down below. Again, you can preview it just to make sure your changes are going to be set. You can save them to an alternate parent folder to make sure you don't override the original family, again, just to make sure things work, or give it a suffix if that makes you feel better. And at this point, we can specify the creation of new shared parameter files from everything that's unique to get a new master list in a sense, and or create type catalogs. And if you're creating type catalogs, which is great, if you like take doors, for example, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, there are groups out there that have all the types built into a door family. That's okay, right? One family does a lot. In my personal preference, it is more user-friendly if it's saved into a type catalog, and they can filter it down and pick and choose what they want. Instead of loading in everything, you load in what you need when you need it. And this way helps you extract those types and delete them if you need to from the family, but they now live in the type catalog. Just an option. I'm not going to do it today, but you have that at your disposal if it helps with content, some of the content management aspect. There is one question, so I would theoretically hit process. I'm not going to hit process because I don't want to make you guys sit here and wait for this. I did this earlier. There is one question that we're going to ask as I'm going back and opening up the next app here, and it's, can it be used with global parameters for the company? No, it cannot. So the global parameter is kind of inside the project space, and family processor doesn't work in the project space, works in the family space. Not a lot we can do with that at that point, unfortunately. It'd be nice if we had a little bit more access to that but again, it would be probably in a different app if we did. All right, now I've made all these changes. I've processed my content. We've got updates. I need to get those into projects. A couple of different things you could theoretically do, depending on the products that you're using. One is to just flat out insert load family and load them all in that way. That's an option. If you're using our Nexus CMS, you could reprocess your content into CMS, and now it's available. You could create a saved search that is for the newly updated content and instruct your teams to load all of these families into a project. That's also an option. Maybe the quickest and least involved process is just to use Family Loader. Family Loader is tailor-made for batch loading families into one or more projects. If you find that the changes that you're making are going to directly affect multiple projects today, you can add those multiple projects to this list, whether they live on your network or they live up in the Autodesk cloud. You can add those projects right now and then specify all of those families. So I'm actually going through the login process right now. So let me pull this back over here. I wasn't signed into my Autodesk account, so I'm doing it right now. And it's going to I'm just allowing access for the app to see my projects. So now I can specify the project that I want to load these into, or projects for that matter. And it's going to do it. All right, so I can say, here's my project. Where are the families? So in this case, for my demo sets, I've just been working off my C drive mostly, but this will work anywhere and not that folder, this folder, temp. Revit families, 23 doors, model, go. Here's all the door families that I just processed earlier today. I take it, wasn't all of them, there was many of them. I grab those are the ones that I brought in, or that I worked with. Add selected, hit OK. And now I have options for what's being loaded and how they're going to get loaded. Do I want to reload only the families used by my project and only the types that were used? Or do I just want to say, you know what, you get everything and you can load everything in? You know, maybe it's your detail host file and you updated a bunch of detail components and changed parameter definitions or maybe a bunch of values and what have you. Yeah, you probably need all those loaded it back in. Maybe it's just a couple of doors in it, or you modified your door library like I just did, but you don't need to make sure that all 50 doors are loaded into all your projects. So maybe you just need to do this and load in what you need and what's being used. Either option is, that's why both options are there. If it is a central file, you know, it's best to have it create a local and do all that stuff. So that's all here. We can have an auto save happen and sync and close after the whole thing is done. The same options you would get if you were kind of doing this manually, right? And then I can hit load. And if this is something that you think might happen again, and maybe you're still doing this kind of testing out of things, you can save these settings and load them again in later on so that you don't have to keep re-adding and reinventing the wheel each and every time you want to test something out. And then you would just hit load. And it's going to go through and load them all into your project based on what was already there. Okay, and we've almost come full circle. I've got one more app left that I want to talk about once this is done getting loaded in, and that would be with schedule parameter resolver. Well, okay, so here this is telling me that double door glass, not happy. I'm not even wanting to use that door because it's out of the box door, and that's okay. A lot of those were Autodesk out of the box doors that shouldn't even be in my project in the first place. And in most cases aren't being used in this particular project. And I know that because it's my project. So, and to be honest, those particular errors have to do with type catalogs missing. And that's what the column 21 thing was all about. So, and again, I know that because those are Autodesk families and I don't have those type catalogs in my library. So that's how I know that. And I'm actually kind of glad that came up because then now you know, if you see that weird error about error in column 21, something doesn't equal something, chances are it's looking for a type catalog to get that type loaded in, but that type catalog doesn't exist because that's how it was used to be loaded in the first place. All right. I maybe shouldn't have done 24 families, but that's okay. That's okay. All right. I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions. No, we're good there. All right, 2 left. So hopefully you guys are seeing some ways in which this will help benefit you. I did make a change to something. We forgot to review it, but I'm going to go back and point it out. So the angle parameter, right? And this is something I forgot to highlight in the family before undoing the change. And I think I'm going to go back and show you this. But that angle parameter got replaced with swing angle. But that angle parameter was used in 2 different locations, in 2 different formulas. And so I loaded all my families, and this is great. Everything at least that I want it to. Now I can hit close. Family saved. It was this project, but I'm going to sync it in a second here. So I'm going to do this again real quick, just because I want you to see it happen. And because family processor moves so fast, I'm not worried about it. Select and begin. And I'm just going to do the current family and hit go. There's angle, replaced, good, hit continue. And again, it's just because I want to show you guys how this works. Part of the reason why I'm showing this again and wanting to show this is it was requested. So because I just did the current family, by default, it's not being saved. And technically, it hasn't even applied it to the family yet. As soon as I try to close family processor, it asks. So yeah, I'm going to say yes, commit those changes. So now if I saved it, it would be happy. But I want to open up family types real quick and go find it. So angle got replaced with swing angle. Here it is as an instance, which I told it to do. Retained the value, which it should. The key is the formulas. Here's angle 3D, control angle 3D, and control angle leaf 1. Both of those are formulas that were referencing angle, but are now referencing swing angle. I didn't even have to touch it. That's just something that our tool helps facilitate Revit's ability to kind of do that on its own, right? So if you were to grab a parameter that's being used in a formula right here and change it with something else, or once it's already referenced and you change the naming of it here because it's just a family parameter, chances are that's going to reflect back here in the formula for you automatically. And that's just kind of how that process works. So if you needed to do that in family processor and you want to try to automate that across all your families, rest assured that will happen for you. Don't have to worry much about that. Hopefully you don't have to go through the process of renaming parameters and then making sure those update in formulas. But if you do, family processor can help you with that. So I'll just go ahead and save that now because I did have it open, so it didn't actually get saved. Back to the project. Okay, so now at this point, I've got, let's just confirm that some of my, some of the doors that I want to work with here got reloaded back in. Like the single door here. If I expand this, grab this, door panel material, frame, threshold, excellent. Things are functioning as they should. So as long as this door is being used in my schedule, which it should be, might not be, but it should be, I think we'll be okay. And actually, let's do that. Let's make sure that those are the doors in my schedule. Okay, perfect. That's one of them. All right, let's do it. Schedule parameter resolver. This is how it's going to work. Again, the point of this tool is to, before I jump into that, one question came and said, you renamed shared parameters. I renamed one of them, yes. I took frame material and renamed it to door frame material. Now, during that process, and I explained this in the video earlier, during that process, our tool effectively deletes it and re-adds it, therefore changing the GUID. So now frame material does no longer exist in the family. It's a new parameter called door frame material. It'd be just like if you try to do it manually on your own. Effectively, you have to delete it and re-add it. That's all our tools really do. But because I did it that way, or even if I added new, because I did that, I now have to update schedules. But that whole process was there to help update the families with the either newly added or renamed parameter that I'm now using. So here, for schedule parameter resolver, its sole purpose is to help you update your schedules to use the proper parameters, whether you've just gone through this exercise or not, right? We're just trying to use the proper stuff from the parameter file. Now, because I made some significant changes and updated content, this is another great way to help you incorporate that new change into your project, into your process. So if I go track down now door frame material and door panel material, from here, for that schedule, which is the one I have open, what should happen now is this parameter should get used in this location. The formatting should retain itself. So I don't have to worry about reformatting the column header or ungrouping and regrouping the columns themselves. The parameter resolver's purpose is to do that, all of that for you, all while updating the parameters being used in the schedule. So it's certainly a project-based updater tool. And in this case,
and with the app closed, and there you go. Now you can see door frame material, door panel material, both populated, both show me the materials that are being used by the families based on the parameters that we had added, which is great. And you can see it maintained all my formatting up here, just like I said it would. The material formatting here was grouped so it's not door panel material. Maintained its grouping under the door heading. Same thing over here on the frame side. So schedule parameter resolver just brought us full circle with the changes that we had just made and helped us update our projects. So the next step would be to run back and make sure that the finish parameters for panel finish and for frame finish were in order. And I should have done that all in the same step, part of the same process. And that would have made everything look beautiful right now. Now there's a couple other door families that are clearly being used in this project that still don't jive with the standard. Now I get to go back, find those families, and potentially do a very similar exercise on those families, or instruct the team to utilize the content that I just got done updating instead of using the ones that they downloaded or from whatever manufacturer that they went ahead and decided to download from. So that takes care of all of that.
if you have any questions about any of this workflow, please reach out. In addition to this, if you need some sample or you want some additional coaching on it, please ask. Just email us at info@ctcsoftware.com. I'll be more than happy to provide some additional sample information for you on how to get this process and how to do the job here that I just showed you today with, say, model dashboard or family checker standards, PAL and data suite and compare, or schedule parameter resolver, family processor, shared parameter manager. Anything I can do to help, I'll be more than willing to do that for you. With that said, it's been a pleasure. Thank you all for joining me today.